Hey traders, checking in on the mushroom sector. A couple things I want to talk about before we get into the individual charts and the technical analysis. And this is something that I've been echoing for a while. I've been putting out these videos for Chart Guys members every weekend for a bunch of months. And I definitely have to give a shout out to a couple people because back in the summer, I stopped making them as things got real boring. And they poked me a few times, hey, still interested in the sector. And that motivated me to keep making the videos. And then obviously we exploded over the past couple of months with a lot of hype and euphoria. So I've said this a couple times, and again, I'm just going to reiterate it again. This is now a public video, and you have to be extremely cautious of these names as far as fundamentals are concerned. If you are going long-term in any of these names and you don't know how to read their financial statements and understand how much cash flow they have, what their convertible debt situation is like, and things of that nature, then you're kidding yourself as far as thinking that there's any kind of edge aside of just picking a name out of a hat. So you have to understand those concepts because this has happened before in the MJ sector. I started trading marijuana stocks 10 years ago. And you could say the exact same thing. It's the same story. 10 years ago, I could look at all these stocks and say, the legal environment is shifting. This is a big sector and a big opportunity. There's only going to be continued upside from here. We're going to see continued law changes and continued shift in sentiment, yada, yada, yada. Same story. None of those companies from 10 years ago or 8 years ago are in the conversation right now in the marijuana sector. Why? Because they're penny stocks and they were too early. They were too early in the sector. And what does that mean? It means they were not generating significant revenues. They paid for everything by diluting shares. And you look at all those penny stocks charts and they're down 90% plus over the last decade. They've got a great story. They've got, they're on the right side of history as far as the sector is concerned. But the fundamentals combined with the fact that they were too early in the sector and the laws and the changing environment was not occurring yet, they're all losers as far as where we have winners in the sector at this point. So that's going to happen in the mushroom sector. A lot of these names 5 years from now are going to be dirt and trash. And again, you have to look into the fundamentals to determine who is going to survive. For me personally, I don't feel that I have any edge determining which companies are going to be the ones that survive. Dollar volume is telling for me. That helps me know which names to be focused on more, but I know that I don't have that good a probability of picking who the winner is going to be 5 to 10 years down the road. So I'm not doing that. I'm going to trade the sector, and that is my approach. But again, there's a lot of people that are just going long on these names because of the story and because of the fundamentals, but that does not override specific, what's the word I'm looking for? Specific fundamentals as far as what the balance sheet is showing us. So that was the echo from last week. And then of course, MindMed comes out with another round of dilution. I think that's their third or fourth round in the last couple of months. And again, they know that they are capitalizing on hype and euphoria and an inflated stock price. And they are issuing shares that they're going to use to pay the electricity bill, to pay, I'm assuming here, but this is what companies do. They pay their operating costs. They pay their executive salaries. I assume they're paying for research and development in such an early sector. But again, that's just my big caution for long term. Doesn't mean there's not great opportunity in the short term in both directions. So I personally am only focused on names that trade a bare minimum of $5 million a day. If you're not trading $5 million a day, I'm not interested in your ticker. And that's most of these names. So MindMed, big volume explosion. And again, the 20-day average, we're looking at $30 million traded on a daily basis. And even U.S. marijuana stocks that are established like Trulieve or Curaleaf, they're not doing that in terms of dollar volume. So it is very notable. Weekly consolidation is underway. And this move was derailed by dilution news. So we have our weekly consolidation underway. We are absolutely looking for a weekly higher low. At this point in time, we've seen a very significant retracement. We are now down almost 50% from our high. That being said, we are also still up 280% from where we came from just a couple months ago. So we are looking for a weekly higher low to be set. What are the indications that a weekly higher low is set? A change in the daily trend. So right now we have some nice bounces, and there have been some nice bounces. That's how I have been trading the sector because I love oversold bounces. It's one of my edges as a trader. So just looking at MindMed, first hourly oversold conditions, one of our back burner trades, coming off the all-time high. We ended up with a very significant 10 to 15% bounce from those levels. And then we had a double bottom last Thursday and another very significant 10 to 15% bounce from those levels. More than 10%, 20% bounce. So double bottom was notable. So that my point is technical analysis still applies here, and there are definitely opportunities. So I'm looking at anything under 471 as a daily lower high. If the low of Friday breaks first thing Monday at 385, our new daily lower high is set at 420. And we'll then be looking back down at that double bottom of 346 as the most important support level. So the most aggressive of bulls that are convinced that MindMed is the winner, and in 10 years it's going to be the Canopy of the mushroom sector as far as what Canopy is to the Canadian MJ sector, then they're looking to aggressively scale into this weekly consolidation. A patient bull is going to wait for a big enough bounce to then anticipate, or at least to have a level to play off of. You know, if I want to be aggressive and play off of 346, I personally feel that 346 still has a pretty good chance of breaking, but that's a level to be looking at. If 346 breaks, the next support level is 336 and then 325. So I would be watching the daily downtrend. You can look at it on the 4-hour time frame for a little bit more detail, but this 4-hour trend has to change bullish to be looking for the weekly higher low to be set. CMPS is traded on the NASDAQ, so it's different in that regard. Its dollar volume is less than the OTC traded MindMed, so again, that is notable, but we're talking 20 million plus a day. It's trying for a weekly bull flag, but we did have a pretty hard rejection this past Friday. After Thursday, it looked really good. It looked like, hey, this is a bull flag and we're going to all-time highs. And then obviously a significant pullback on Friday. So the low of the consolidation at this point, $52 is the most important support. And we now have a little double top just under the all-time high at 61.69. If that low of 52 breaks, the odds of a weekly bull flag will decrease. We will still be looking for a weekly higher low because it's anything above 33.11. But again, it's just the difference between brief consolidation favoring continuation to more significant consolidation favoring an equilibrium. And we use Fibonacci retracements for those that don't have the visual down just yet, because that takes a lot of experience. We look at this and say, okay, if we're above the 38.2 retracement, still a possible bull flag. If we break that and move towards the 50% and beyond, we start looking for an equilibrium, which is why that 52 level is important in the short term. NUMI, total dollar volume on a daily basis, we're looking at about 6 to 8 million. And daily consolidation pulling back. Its pullback percentage-wise, I should say retracement size, is bigger than MindMed. It has pulled back more. We're not looking for weekly consolidation or for weekly continuation, and we're not looking for weekly continuation on MindMed either. We are looking for a weekly lower high once the next bounce takes place, unless there was some kind of monumental fundamental news. And again, you just look at the retracement coming from this low, we have pulled back over 50% of that move. So all we're doing is looking at probabilities. And if you pull back 50% plus, the probability is a weekly lower high will be the most likely result of the next bounce, because that recent high is that much further away. So if I want to look at NUMI and I'm looking at Fibonacci, the pullback here is even more significant. We are looking at a pullback of almost 618, more than that, 65% retracement. So same thing, it's a very similar pattern, it's just a bit weaker. Multiple inside bars, if they break bearish, we're looking down at the low of 112. After 112, we're looking at 107 and $1 psychological. If the inside bars break bullish, anything under, I would consider really anything under 245, just a daily lower high. So it is weaker than MindMed at this point in time, technically speaking. RVV, daily dollar volume, average, we're looking at about 3 to 4 million. Look at this daily consolidation. Look how different it looks. This consolidation is less significant than both MindMed and NUMI. And if I'm looking at the Fibonacci retracement level, we have pulled back about 50%. So it is close to MindMed. Daily chart, I'm looking at short-term resistance of 77. And aggressive bulls are going to be looking to play off of 55. Because if this tops out and then we look for a daily higher low compared to 55, it would be easier for bulls to set a weekly higher low on this current setup than it would be on our other charts. This bear break under that temporary low of 58 cents did not see much follow through, which is keeping the bulls confident on the weekly chart. MYCO. Now we're entering a different space. I view, technically speaking, the 4 names that I just covered as the leaders. And if you look at MYCO, these are all going to be tier 2 names. Why are they tier 2? Dollar volume traded and a lot of previous price resistance as opposed to coming off of all-time highs on some of our other names. So MYCO, we got up to 68 cents, but all this resistance from that all-time high back in earlier 2020 still does remain. So same setup in the sense of looking for a weekly high or low to be set on this consolidation. Clear little daily downtrend. Anything under 56 cents is just a daily low or high. And bulls are hoping for a big enough bounce, even if we reject from 56, to then be looking for a daily high or low compared to 415 to try and set up the daily trend change to set that weekly high or low. SHRMF, average dollar volume. We are talking 1.5 to 2 million traded. This one's a bit more tricky because its Canadian ticker is still halted. So you're only trading on the US side. That adds an extra layer of risk. I don't know the fundamentals as far as what it's going to require for the Canadian ticker to start trading again. That's something you got to look into. But again, it's very similar in the sense of how it's consolidating. We are looking for a weekly high or low, anything above 40 cents. And anything under 89 is just a daily low or high. Bulls have to set up the daily trend change to be looking for that weekly high or low. PULL, daily volume, we are looking at junk. Less than $300,000 traded a day. And obviously it's much weaker. Look at how much we gave back. 55 cents is a must-hold level because after 55, you're looking at 52 and then the all-time low. So this looks more like a pump and dump to me, just in the sense that, you know, I'm sure it had some headlines to do with mushrooms and they got some of the hype, but clearly it's not in the same league as the other names that we were looking at. Most important short-term resistance is 67. So 55 to 67, most important levels. And obviously, if we fade back to the all-time low, that's a huge red flag for bulls. PSYC, daily dollar volume, also very low. We're looking at, same thing, 500,000 traded maybe. So I guess it would go right here. We have been seeing weekly consolidation, looking for a higher low to form. Daily time frame, same setup as the other names. I would call anything under 36 a daily low or high. And it's notable because we hit a new low of consolidation on Friday. Not many individual names did that. But it is a very similar setup to the other names that we're watching. So, CMPS has its own setup, and it's traded on the NASDAQ. MindMed, NUMI, and RVV, I put tier 1, and they're all similar to each other with very similar daily consolidation. MYCO and everybody else is tier 2. Some of them have the same consolidation as the tier 1 names, but the dollar volume is just not there. So that's where we stand in the sector. Congrats to the bulls with the gains. For the love of Mary, take some profit, and hopefully you already have, because obviously we pulled back very significantly, and if there's anything that the MJ sectors have shown us, it's that taking some profit into euphoria is a really good idea, and you can always reload cheaper if that's what you want to do. The shape, I'm a big fan of this space. I'm not sold on the capitalistic way that this sector is going to develop as far as being money makers. You know, are we going to see billion-dollar market caps? Well, I guess we already have, but are we going to see justified more than just hype and euphoria? Billion-dollar market caps? Really, this is now just diving off into my own opinion. Big fan of microdosing. There are absolutely huge implications, medically speaking, of what this sector is going to do to mental health and disrupting. You know, it's the MJ story all over again. The difference is the money to be made in this sector is not in the commodity. You can grow mushrooms really, really cheap, and as supply increases, that price is going to drop continuously. And you also use it, I'm generalizing, way less than marijuana. So people will go through a couple $1,000s of marijuana in a year, and people, to go through a couple $1,000s of mushrooms, you're taking a lot of mushrooms every month, a lot. So it's different in that regard. The way that this sector is going to make space or make money, in my opinion, is in two ways. In the treatment, and the laws are going to dictate so much, because if you have if you have boxed in laws that say only this kind of person with this kind of credentials can lead a session for whatever the ailment, whether it's terminal patients, or whether it's depression, or whether it's PTSD. And if it's exclusive, then there's going to be a high price tag there. But if a lot of people can lead this facilitation, I mean, I have friends with property building a wellness center that'll have these for $500 a weekend. So it's very different on what the price tag will be based on the exclusivity, based on the laws. And in my opinion, you're going to have places that have the whole experience of come here and get the treatment, and you stay with us, and we provide your meals. That's where the big dollars are going to be, in my opinion. Or if the pharmaceutical industry grabs a hold, starts throwing out patents, and then it's exclusivity in that way, and they just jack up the price of the drug like they've done on so many other drugs. So those are the two paths for high profitability, in my opinion. But if that does not happen, this is not a high profitability commodity. And again, it's very different uses than MJ and very different potential implications and all that. But that's just my opinion from using it and from knowing prices and from watching how much it's consumed and how it is consumed from a wide array of different people. But it's going to be fun watching this space develop, and laws will shift, absolutely. And it'll be fun watching that as well. So have a game plan established. Have a stop loss level set on every single trade. I hope you have a good holiday long weekend, and we'll see you soon.